Matthew chapter 14. The death of John the Baptist. It was at that time that Herod, the ruler of Galilee, heard about Jesus. "He is really John the Baptist who has come back to life," he told his officials. "That is why these powers are at work in him." For Herod had ordered John's arrest and had him tied up and put in prison. He did this because Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, John the Baptist, kept telling Herod, "It isn't right for you to marry her." Herod wanted to kill him, but he was afraid of the Jewish people because they considered John to be a prophet. On Herod's birthday, the daughter of Herodias danced in front of the whole group. Herod was so pleased that he promised her, "I swear that I will give you anything you ask for." At her mother's suggestions, she asked him, "Give me, right here, the head of John the Baptist on a plate." The king was sad, but because of the promise he had made in front of all his guests, he gave orders that her wish be granted. So he had John beheaded in the prison. The head was brought in on a plate and given to the girl, who took it to her mother. John's disciples came, got his body, and buried it. Then they went and told Jesus. Jesus feeds the 5,000. When Jesus heard the news, he left that place in a boat and went to a lonely place by himself. The people heard about it, left their towns, and followed him by land. Jesus got out of the boat, and when he saw the large crowd, his heart was filled with pity for them, and he healed their sick. That evening his disciples came to him and said, "It is already very late, and this is a lonely place. Send the people away and let them go to the villages and buy food for themselves." "They don't have to leave," answered Jesus. "You yourselves give them something to eat." "All we have are 5 loaves and 2 fishes, they said. "Bring them here to me," Jesus said. He ordered the people to sit down on the grass, and then he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, looked up to heaven, and gave thanks to God. He broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. Everyone ate and had enough. Then the disciples took up 12 baskets full of what was left over. The number of men who ate was about 5,000, not counting the women and children. Jesus walks on the water. Then Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go ahead of him to the other side of the lake, while he sent the people away. After sending the people away, he went up on a hill himself to pray. When evening came, Jesus was there alone. By this time the boat was far out in the lake, tossed about by the waves, because the wind was blowing against it. Between 3 and 6 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came to them walking on the water. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and screamed with fear. Jesus spoke to them at once. "Courage," he said, "it is I. Don't be afraid." Then Peter spoke up. "Lord," he said, "if it is really you, order me to come out of the water to you." "Come," answered Jesus. So Peter got out of the boat and started walking on the water to Jesus. When he noticed the wind, however, he was afraid and started to sink down in the water. "Save me, Lord," he cried. At once Jesus reached out and grabbed him and said, "How little faith you have. Why did you doubt?" They both got into the boat and the wind died down. The disciples in the boat worshipped Jesus, and they said, "Truly you are the Son of God." Jesus heals the sick in Gennesaret. They crossed the lake and came to the land of Gennesaret, where the people recognized Jesus. So they sent for the sick people in all the surrounding country and brought them to Jesus. They begged him to let the sick at least touch the edge of his cloak, and all who touched it were made well. Matthew 15. the teaching of the ancestors. Then some Pharisees and teachers of the law came to Jesus from Jerusalem and asked him, "Why is it that your disciples disobey the teaching handed down by our ancestors? They don't wash their hands in the proper way before they eat." Jesus answered, "And why do you disobey God's command and follow your own teaching? For God said, 'Honor your father and mother,' and anyone who says bad things about his father or mother must be put to death. But you teach that if a person has something he could use to help his father and mother, but says, 'This belongs to God,' he does not need to honor his father. This is how you disregard God's word, to follow your own teachings. You hypocrites! How right Isaiah was when he prophesied about you. 'These people,' says God, 'honor me with their words, but their heart is really far away from me. It is no use for them to worship me because they teach man-made commandments as though they were God's rules, the things that make a person unclean.' Then Jesus called the crowd to him and said to them, 'Listen and understand. It is not what goes into a person's mouth that makes it unclean. Rather, what comes out of it makes him unclean.' Then the disciples came to him and said, 'Do you know that the Pharisees had their feelings hurt by what you said? Every plant which my Father in heaven did not plant will be pulled up,' answered Jesus. 'Don't worry about them. They are blind leaders, and when one blind leader leads another, both fall into a ditch.' Peter spoke up, 'Tell us what that parable means.' Jesus said, 'You are still no more intelligent than the others. Don't you understand? Anything that goes into a person's mouth goes into his stomach and then out of the body. But the things that come out of the mouth come from the heart. Such things make a man unclean. For from his heart come the evil ideas which lead him to kill, commit adultery, and do other immoral things, to rob, lie, and slander others. These are the things that make a man unclean. But to eat without washing your hands, as they say you should, this does not make a man unclean.' A woman's faith." Jesus left the place and went off to the territory near the city of Tyre and Sidon. A Canaanite woman who lived in that region came to him. "Son of David, sir," she cried, "have mercy on me. My daughter has a demon as in a terrible condition." But Jesus did not say a word to her. His disciples came to him and begged, "Send her away. She is following us and making all this noise." Then Jesus replied, "I have been sent only to the lost sheep of the people of Israel." At this the woman came and fell at his feet. "Help me, sir," she said. Jesus answered, "It isn't right to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." "That is true, sir," she answered, "but even the dogs eat the leftovers that fall from their master's table." So Jesus answered her, "You are a woman of great faith. What you want will be done for you." And at that very moment her daughter was healed. Jesus heals many people. Jesus left that place and went along by Lake Galilee. He climbed a hill and sat down. Large crowds came to him, bringing with them the lame, the blind, the crippled, the dumb, and many other sick people, whom they placed at Jesus' feet, and he healed them. The people were amazed as they saw the dumb speaking, the crippled made whole, the lame walking, and the blind seeing, and they praised the God of Israel. Jesus feeds the 4,000. Jesus called his disciples to him and said, "I feel sorry for these people because they have been with me for 3 days and now have nothing to eat. I don't want to send them away without feeding them, because they might faint on their way home." The disciples asked him, "Where will we find enough food in this desert to feed this crowd?" "How much bread do you have?" Jesus asked. 7 loaves and a few small fish." So Jesus ordered the crowd to sit down on the ground. Then he took the 7 loaves and the fish, gave thanks to God, broke them, and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and had enough. The disciples took up 7 baskets full of leftovers. The number of men who ate was 4,000, not counting the women and children. Then Jesus sent the people away, got into the boat, and went to the territory of Magadan.